Prosecutors argue that Tehran was a co-conspirator of the defendants in this massive RICO case, and so their written statements in a diary are admissible as evidence. In the court filing, prosecutors wrote, the diary entries consist of violent anti-police rhetoric and drawings, notes on meetings in the forest, to-do lists regarding various tasks. Manuel Tehran's diary is admissible as a statement of his then existing mental, emotional, and physical condition. Tehran often goes into detail about his hatred for police, current society, and the way that he believes society should be. These statements are a glimpse into the mind of a forest defender and the attitudes kept by Tehran and his co-conspirators. The defense is expected to try to keep the diary out of court as evidence. Most notably, they could argue it's hearsay and that none of the legal exceptions to the rule will apply.